All right, welcome everybody to the new stream. If you recall, we last week started work on our multi-region website, and this is the plan that we came up with during the stream last week. And we got a fair amount done. So we deployed the VPC. Actually, let me just jump over to where we are. Okay, so we deployed, oh, look at that, I got a failure here. We'll have to check this one. Let's see here. We got our IAM resources, KMS, VPC, the flow logs, our security groups, and we started working on EFS. And our primary region is Northern Virginia, and we're using Oregon as our secondary region. And I know why this failed. So remember, we had this problem before. We had, when we created the stacks, even though I cleaned them up, the log groups remained. So what we'll do, let's delete this stack. We'll go over to CloudWatch. We'll go to CloudWatch logs. Sorry, I just need my other chat window open here. Not sure where that is. Well, what we'll do is we'll basically just go to log groups, and we'll just manually delete this for now. And then we'll just rerun our stack. So we can say delete. And we can do the same thing in Northern Virginia. So that's the log group here. We'll say delete that one. And then if we go back to CloudFormation, let's put this on our bar here at the top. We'll delete this stack as well. And we'll just redeploy that. And while we wait for that, let me just see if I can figure out what I did wrong here. I've lost some of the widgets that I normally have here. I don't know what happened. Oh, there we go. I think we found it. All right, so that's what I need. And then let me just double check over here. This is running properly. And what we'll do, okay, that's good. What we'll do is, let me get our Git environment running. So just give me a second here. Okay, so this is where we left off last week. And let me rerun the pipeline, because that pipeline, we need to get our flow logs going again. So we'll just run this the whole pipeline again. Okay, so we'll let that run. And then last week, let me increase the size of this. Where is it? Editor, font. Make this 22, I think. Yeah, it's easier to read. So last week we left with the deploy stage of the EFS, the shared file system. And just as we ended the stream last week, I realized that we had a challenge in the sense that because we want to set up replication between these two environments, between the primary region and our secondary region, we need to be able to basically refer to the other EFS file system. And that's going to be, we're going to have to figure out how that works in this environment because, well, I'll show you what I mean. Let's go back to our EFS file system here. So this is a pretty standard EFS file system. If you remember last week, we set it up, we set our backup policy, we encrypted it, we referred to a lifecycle policy, our file system, and great. And here's our KMS key, right? And then we created our mount targets. But if we pull up the EFS CloudFormation page, let me show you what we might run into here. Let me just get that in the browser here. Right, so we want to be able to replicate from the primary file system to the secondary file system. So the file system in Northern Virginia, we want to replicate that to the file system that's in Oregon, US West 2. And to do that, we need to set up this replication config, and in the replication config, we need a destination. And excuse me, the destination needs the ID and the KMS key of the other file system. Well, and the region. The region's easy. But the thing that I couldn't think of last week was how do we pull this information? Because we're deploying these in different regions and we use exports, right? So an export from a CloudFormation template we can use as an import in another CloudFormation template. The challenge is that exports are tied to the regions. So we don't have any way to take the export value from the secondary region and use it as the import value in our primary region to say, hey, primary file system replicate to over here. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge on how we do this. And I think we might be able to figure it out in our two deploy stacks. What I'm thinking is we deploy the secondary file system first. And this isn't going to be, you know, the most elegant way of doing this. I'm sure there's a better way to do it. But at this point, it's all my brain can think about is we deploy the secondary file system, okay? And then what we do is we take the values we get from the script and we use them as manual inputs into the primary file system to set it up. Because in this stack, actually this isn't going to work either because we're using a single stack for this. And just like we did with our other ones, like the VPC stack is the same across both regions. So maybe what we need to do is something like this. Let's refactor this, and we're just going to make it EFS primary, and then we're going to copy this, and we'll make it EFS secondary. It's not a great solution, but this might do what we want. So if we go here, we need to change. Oh, we didn't put it in here. So let me grab the primary EFS. Go here and go to secondary. All right, we'll do this. We'll say primary EFS. This becomes primary. Oh man, all these are. Oh, sorry. This becomes secondary. In the wrong file. This becomes secondary. Like this, and this becomes did I call it? Oh, EFS secondary. All right, so let's see if this will deploy. That's the first thing. Let's get this secondary file system to deploy first, and then we can look at the outputs that come from it and see if we can figure out what's the easiest way to get them into the primary file system. Ideally, I'd like this to just go seamlessly, but because we're going across regions, I'm not quite sure if we can. So the other thing I want to do is, this is our job name, and we're going to go into primary, and we're going to say that before we run our primary job, the secondary EFS job has to run first, and then this becomes primary. Okay, so let's try this. Let's just see if we can get it to deploy first. So feature added EFS. We'll just push that. So type something wrong here. Secondary is not defined in a current or prior stage. What did I do wrong there? So these are the jobs. So these are the stacks and these are the jobs. What was the error message? Secondary EFS deploy job need secondary VPC deploy is not defined in the current or prior stages. Secondary VPC deploy. That right there. Did I just type something wrong? Secondary VPC deploy. Oh, this right here. See this? It's wrong stage. So deploy secondary. And that's actually probably going to mess us up here too, because that's not going to work. It's going to complain about that. Yeah. I don't know if I like this, but let's just see if we can get it working. Give that a second. Over here. Still got something wrong here. Okay, at least it made it past the CI, so we've got just a typo here. Oh, yeah, so this is in the validation phase. We changed the names of those files, didn't we? So that means we got to go back over to our CI script, and we just need to, let's copy this. All right, we'll say primary and secondary. That's just a path issue. There we go. Oh, man. Primary EFS YAML, no such file. Primary EFS. Did I do EFS primary? I did. Try this again. All right, there we go. We made it past the validation stage. That's always good. Which should hopefully get us to where we should be able to deploy the flow logs now. Actually, I better be careful, because if the pipeline tries to run the deploy job and it's in update stage, then it's going to fail. So we'll let this finish first. Now we're kind of caught in between. Oh, look, I did the same thing here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go over here. We are going to execute these flow log change sets. So hopefully those will finish successfully this time, and we'll do those in both Northern Virginia and Oregon. Okay, so that's that. We'll let those run. And then what we'll do is we'll fix our path issue over here in these files. So we'll go primary. So I just did this backwards again. EFS dash primary. I probably did the same thing over here, yeah. No, is that right? EFS primary. I changed it here, didn't change it in the other one. Now again, before we push this, we got to make sure that these stacks are updated. Otherwise, we'll get stuck. So those are all done now. Okay. So let's go back over here, and we can push this. This always takes longer when you're sitting watching it. Okay, there, it didn't fail this time. That's a good sign. But we really got to wait to get to this one, because I want this secondary EFS deploy to go first. So there's our primary deploy done. Because remember, I need the information from here to pull into here. And I wonder if, no, because it wants a file system ID. I was thinking maybe we could use file system names and then hard code the names in our CloudFormation template so we could just refer to them on the other side, but it doesn't use that. So if we go back over here to Oregon, refresh, here's our EFS. Let's see if it deploys first. I can't remember if we actually deployed this in the last session or not, if it deployed successfully or not. While we're waiting, let's go back here. We don't have to worry about availability zone names because we're not using one zone storage classes. We're using multi-zone, which is the default, so we'll use that. Yeah, see, it wants the file system ID and then the KMS ID. Okay, well, okay, so that's good. This is happening. And then see, what we want is this here. We're going to need that in our primary template. And again, even if we could do this in the CI scripting, how could we do this? I wonder if there is a CLI command we could use to get this. So see here, stack resource. Yeah, see this here? Okay, let's try something. Let's try something. Okay, so this is done. I'm going to put this, because we might have to run this command a couple times to get it to work, if it even does what I want. So we're just going to do this. We're going to add, I'm going to go here and I'm just going to say, all right, we'll create a directory just called scratch, and we're just going to say notes.txt, okay? And we're going to do AWS CloudFormation. What was the command? Describe stack resource. Actually, let me pull this up in a different browser so I can have both windows open at the same time. That'll be better. Bear with me a second to reorganize this. Okay. So we'll go back to PyCharm. Here we go. And we're going to do describe stack resource. And then it asks for the stack name. Okay, we'll put some sort of value in here. And then the logical resource ID is whatever. Okay, so let's grab these values. Actually, we can probably grab them right from here. So we know our stack name is this, right? Secondary MR EFS. So that's our stack name. And then we know if we open up this, our logical resource is just this guy. Okay, we can put that here, and then we can say -- region. In our case, it's going to be US West 2. Let's run this command and see what it does. So if we go back to the console, and what I'm thinking, if we go back to Northern Virginia, we'll just use Cloud Shell to run this. Quick and easy. I know that it's pretty small. Here we go, large. Okay, let's see what this does. There we go. And see what we need? We need this. That's the physical resource ID. So we could then run a query option on this, AWS CLI query. So we can filter the output. Yeah, so we can do -- query, and then we can use the structure of the JSON to figure this out. So this will be interesting. I always find these challenging. So we could do this. I'm going to put this in my little cheat sheet. So we'll say -- query, and then what's the structure of this thing? So let me do the same thing I did before so you can see what I'm looking at. Put this over in the other browser. And then we'll go back over here. Okay, so what I did was I added -- query, and then we need the top level piece. So we could do what was it called in the output? Just stack resource detail. So we'll do this, and for now it should return exactly the same thing we saw before. So if we take this, we go back to Cloud Shell and run that command, it should look exactly the same. Oh, if I space it properly. Hold on, let me just cut and paste that again. easier to do it this way. Null. That's not what I was expecting to see. I was expecting to see essentially the whole list again. What did I do wrong? I was expecting to see this whole chunk, and then we could narrow it down to a specific resource. Just looking at the docs for this. Volumes. So, like, what I was expecting is we would get the whole list, and then we could do something like this. Dot dash region. So this is what I'm looking at. Basically this page, right? So this is our command. And then we can run to filter through all output from an array. Use the wildcard notation, right? So that's kind of what I was thinking. This would give us, in our example, the information about the stack. And then we can look at a specific index if we wanted. You can see kind of all the different ways you can look at the index. And then down here, we could look for a specific, in our case, resource ID. Filtering for multiple identifier values. What if we do this? Is it physical resource ID? There we go. Okay. So let me just cut and paste this again so we've got it. So here's what I'm thinking. What we could do is if we go back here, let me just paste that full command there. And I like to go like this. Always put the region as the end. I don't know why. It's just the way I like to do it. So we need some info in here first before we can actually deploy this. So I could do something like so I need like a variable here equals, and I gotta check the format of this in GitLab, but we could do this, right? So we're gonna run a CloudFormation command, and let's just put it on multiple lines like this, right? Something like that. Now, I don't know how to set this. Give me a second. Let me just see if I can find an example of this. Right, so see this? That's how we can get a variable in here. So I wonder if we could do something like this. I don't know if it'll run a command there. Oh, here we go. Windows batch, service containers. So we could maybe do something like before the script, we go off and get the variable. Then we use the variable in the script here. Right, because there's exporting it. I wonder if we could just do something like this. So we say before script, let's call this FSID. We'll do secondary FSID equals. There's not an equals sign, I don't think. How did they set that variable? Yeah, so I don't think this is going to work. Let's try it though. What's the worst that could happen, right? And then we'll just say export secondary FSID. Or actually we'll say, I think in the example they had there, they exported it from this job and then pulled it in here. Okay. So let's see if we can do it like this. We'll say these have to be like this. What am I doing wrong here? Yeah, these have to be export. Oh, all right. Sorry, I'm making this more complicated. So we could just do this. Dash export secondary is like this, but how do we run this command? Do we just put it in quotes like that? And then down here we could say echo. That doesn't feel right to me with the quotes. Let's do it and see what happens. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, I don't know why that came up. Bear with me a second here. Okay, definitely, it definitely is not liking what we're doing here. So this is the wrong path. So let's get rid of that. I want to take it back, just make sure that I didn't just do something weird here. Let's push this again and just make sure that it works. Push rejected. What happened here? Internal server error. Hang on one sec. Okay, so our GitLab environment is no longer available. It might actually cut our stream short here. Hang on a second. That's interesting. Never seen that one before. Let me just see if I can. Yeah, so here's what I'm seeing. Let's just make sure that, yeah, that works, no problem. All right, well, without our GitLab environment, we can't really do anything because everything is in GitLab. I don't know what's happened. Bear with me 1 second. I'll leave you with PyCharm here for a minute. And let me just get onto that machine quickly. Just give it a poke and see if it comes back to life for us. I see what the problem is. Okay, bear with me a second and see if I can fix this quickly. Well, this is kind of crappy timing. This might take more work than I thought to clean up. Give me a second here. See if we gave, okay, that might have fixed our issue here. Give me a sec. Okay, that was odd. So we build a lot of Docker images on our GitLab server, and it looks like something happened there and it just chewed up all the disk space for some reason, just as we started the stream. So that's fixed. Now, let's go back over here to PyCharm and let's put back what... Okay, yeah, that's fine. Let's put back what I had and just see, because I was thinking, was there something in here that was I don't know why I thought that on a rejected push, but that was the thing that we changed. So let's try this again and see what happens. Okay, there we go. We got our commit going again. And then let's go back over here, and I'm gonna be shocked if this runs, but let's see what it does. Unfortunately, we got to let the whole thing go because it's this job that has the export command in it. So it might take a minute. There's the failure. Okay. Export not a valid identifier. Yeah, I'm not surprised about. I've done this before, but I cannot remember how to do it. I want to see if I can find an example of how this might work. Let's do this. These are all pretty much the same thing. Okay, I'm gonna try something here. So bear with me a second. So this is totally off topic. I've for a long time have used I don't know what you want to call it, a shell extension. It's called Fig. And if you're not familiar, Fig was maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, purchased by AWS. And if you had already installed Fig, you could continue to use it, but they stopped all of the new signups, and they just yesterday, I think, let's say yesterday, re-released Fig as CodeWhisperer CLI. And I don't have an easy way to share this, but I've got the CodeWhisperer CLI. I've changed Fig to it, and you can actually run I'll show you what the command looks like. So again, we'll use our notes over here. So I just typed this. So CW CodeWhisperer AI, okay, and I said, what did I say? Create a GitLab CI variable from the output of a AWS CLI command. And it actually spit out to me an example of a shell command. Not exactly what I wanted, but this is what it replied back with or to me. So it's interesting now, right in my command line, I can ask it to do some stuff. You can execute the commands. I'm going to ask it to regenerate the answer, see if it gives me anything different. It does not. Let's see here. I wish I could share this easily. Give me a sec. If we can do this on the fly. Actually, you know what I could do? I could try to do it right in here. Okay. I don't know if the extension will work in here or not. So let's try it. So I just did CWAI set a GitLab CI, we'll call it a stage variable based on the return value of an AWS CLI command. That's pretty much what we did, right? Isn't that cool though? Okay, so let's try this. Let's try this. So we'll go back over here. So export. Oh, see? Yeah, okay. So we're going to go like this, and then it used backticks, and you're going to laugh at me. I'm going to copy this backtick because I have messed around with my keyboard mapping enough that I don't remember where my backtick is on my keyboard mapping. I don't really use it, so oops. Okay, so export secondary FSID equals blah. And then we've got our regular CloudFormation command. Let's see if this worked. We'll just do this. Go back over to here. Pipeline. Let's see. All right, well, stages are running. Let's see if we can survive the primary EFS deploy stage. Okay, it's going to start running here. Any minute. Okay, there it goes. An error occurred when... Okay, so the command ran, but we didn't get what we wanted. Why is that? I know why. Okay. I ran this. Remember, I ran this command in Cloud Shell, right? So Cloud Shell knows who I am and everything. When we're running here, we need to pass along some profile information as well. So what we're really doing here is telling the GitLab runner where to go. And in this case, it's not looking in the right account. That's why we're getting this error. So I think what we could do is if we go back over to PyCharm and just adjust this, and we include, if you remember in here, we include the profile value, because what we're actually doing here is we're asking GitLab to assume a role in another account. Okay, because in our environment, the GitLab server, the service itself, it's not running in what we call our demo account. It's running in another account. So what we have is the GitLab runner assumes a role in the other account to run the command. Okay, so I think if we go back here and we do this, -- profile, and we can just say $profile, just like we did here. And I'm overriding the region because I want it to go to US West 2. Okay. Kevin, how you doing? On the road visiting for American Thanksgiving. Looking forward to catching the replay tomorrow. Hey, man. Well, safe travels. And yeah, you can catch up. I don't know if you saw it, but we just used the CodeWhisperer CLI to hopefully fix a problem, which is really cool. Totally not CloudFormation, but really cool nonetheless. So safe travels, and we'll see you soon. All right, let's see what happens here. While that's running, I'm getting over a cold and my throat is still bugging me, so bear with me a second. All right. Hopefully that'll stop me from coughing in your ear. There we go. That's perfect. Now, the other thing that we need, so now what we could do is we could pass this as a variable into our down here, right? So we could say, we could do something like this. I know this doesn't exist yet, but we could do secondary FSID equals $, that value. Like that. We need to do the same thing because we need to do the same thing for our KMS Key ID. If we go and look at the documentation for this, right, we need the KMS Key ID, which is the KMS encryption key that is on the other side of the replication. Because what we're going to do is we're going to use our key on this side and then the other key on the other side, which is going to lead to another problem, but we'll fix that later. So let's see if we can get that value as well. Actually, so let's go back over here. And we just need some stack information, so we can go back over. Oops, give me a sec. All right, let's drag this back over here. If we go to Oregon and we do the same thing we did before, we just need to get a particular resource info from, in this case, this KMS stack. So what we'll do, we'll just use our cheat sheet again from here. Okay. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. AWS CloudFormation describe stack resource. In this case, our stack name is secondary MR KMS. And the logical resource ID is, I forget. It'll be from here. We need, I think it'll just be key 0 should give us what we want. Key 0. So let's run this command. We'll do the same thing. Oh, we got to do -- region US West 2. So let's run this in Cloud Shell again. And make sure we're in US East 1. Let's make this bigger again. Okay, so there's the detail, and we'll do exactly like we did before. So we'll say -- query, and we said stack, I think we did this, stack resource detail dot, we need the physical resource ID. This is the key ID. So if we do that, we get the value back. Okay, perfect. So if I just copy this and we go back over to our script, we go here and we do exactly the same thing, right? Export, we're going to say secondary KMS, or we'll just say key ID equals this. And then we'll adjust slightly because, like I said already, I always like I don't know why, just old habits. I always like to put the region at the end, and then I'm going to copy the backtick because I don't know where it's mapped on my keyboard. There we go. And then we should be able to do secondary key ID equals this, right? In theory, this should work. And what we need to do then is in our primary EFS template, we need to set up a few other things. So let's get rid of metadata for now. And we'll say secondary FS ID is a string, and secondary key ID is also a string. So these are the values. Did I make them the same? Secondary key ID, secondary FS ID. I did it like this, right? Excuse me. So now, if we go down here and we look up, let me just pull this documentation into another tab that I can look at here. All right, so what do we need? We need, oops. Sorry, bear with me a sec. I just need to find the EFS thing again. Okay. So we're going to go like this. Replication configuration. So we're going from the primary file system to the secondary file system. And what we're going to do is, first off, it looks like we can actually replicate this to multiple destinations. So in our case, we just have the one. And then we want to say file system ID is ref secondary FS ID. And then our KMS key ID is ref secondary key ID. And then we need our region. Excuse me. And then we'll do the same thing, just so we can, if we ever wanted to do something different here, we'll say secondary region. And we'll put this up here too. Right? And then all we have to do is go back to our primary. And here we'll set this variable because obviously we don't need to do anything too fancy here. We'll say US West 2, and then we'll pass that in as another parameter. Okay. Let's see what this does. right, there it goes. Okay, that looks good. Oh, an error occurred. Secondary MR KMS. Oh, I did the same thing. I forgot to put the profile info in. So yeah, we got to do this. Right, so it's looking in the wrong account, and it's saying that doesn't exist. Oh, sorry, I didn't change my screen there. All I did was change the add that missing profile. All right, let's see if I got that figured out. Okay, there we go. No error there. So these two commands ran, and that looks good. So if we go back to CloudFormation, let's get rid of our Cloud Shell, and let's go EFS. We should have a bunch of change sets now. Here's our current change set. Let's look at inputs. Now the only thing is, see this? It's got quotes. I'm not sure if it's going to like those quotes around this stuff. I bet you it's going to complain about those. But I'm going to run it, and let's see what it does. If it doesn't like the quotes, we'll have to figure out how to get rid of those. And I think we can do that in the CLI query operation. But again, we'll maybe ask CodeWhisperer to help us with that. All right, so let's execute this. I'm going to expect that it's going to complain. But let's see what it does. Maybe we get lucky here and it just works. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah, see that? It doesn't see what it's done. It's got like, it's wrapped it in single quotes too. So if you look at the pattern here, oh wait, alias. Oh, hold on. I think the quotes are still going to muck us up because it looks like here it's expecting an alias or an ARN that uniquely identifies that key, or key slash. Maybe, hang on one second. Yeah, in the docs it just says the ID of the KMS. Okay, so let's go back over here. Let's go back to here. And here's our command, right? So we'll just say, ask another question. And we're going to say, using -- query, how can we strip out double quotes in the AWS CLI data returned? Output text. Okay, so for now we'll say cancel. And let's go back over here, and we're going to say -- output text, and we'll just see. Oh, what did I do wrong? Oh, again, yeah, I shouldn't be doing that from here. I should be using it from over here, right? So let's fire up Cloud Shell again and just run that with -- output text. Not what we wanted. Oh, sorry, I'm not running the right thing, am I? We got to go here and say -- output text. Okay. CodeWhisperer CLI to the rescue. So all we're going to have to do then is if we go back over here, we go to these commands and just add -- output text. Like that. We might still not have something correct in the format of, I'm thinking maybe on what it's expecting here, but at least now we're going to get rid of, and we can check this in the output, in the CLI output, to make sure that we don't have those quotes anymore. Let's see if that did the trick. Oh, you know what? That was silly. I didn't delete the stack. So the stack is in rollback complete, right? It's not in a state that we can run anything against. So we'll just clean that up. Okay, and then what I can do is just go back here and we'll go back to the pipeline and we'll just rerun that stage. I guess it's not a stage, the job. Okay, so there's our two commands again. And then if we go back to CloudFormation, here, change sets, let's look at the inputs. So there we go. Now we don't have any sort of double quotes. I don't think this is in the right format still, but let's see what it does. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just basing that on the fact that the way that error message was formatted, it was saying it should have like alias / key / or something like that. Although it's not failing. Look at that. It worked. Oh, this is good. This is good. We'll let the mount targets get created, and then we're going to jump over and we're going to have a look at, we'll just look at the EFS file system and see if we see the replication configs there. And then what we'll do is we got to build an AMI because I want to use the AMI as the starting point for auto scaling groups in both of the regions. So what I'm thinking is, excuse me, we will test it out manually here to make sure that if we create a file in the EFS file system in the primary region, it shows up in the secondary region. So here's our file system. There's our replication. Last synced. So this is our source file system, and our destination file system is read-only. It's pretty good. And is this done yet? There we go. That's done. Okay. So I think what we'll do now is we're going to just manually create an EC2 instance, and we'll use this to test out our file systems. Make sure we can mount the drive or mount the volume, write something to the volume, and see it show up on the other side. So we'll just do this first. All right, we'll just call it the AMI builder. And we're going to use ARM processors. We'll stick with 2023. Actually, let me zoom in a bit here. All right. So we'll use ARM processors, Linux 2023. And I'm doing that because I want to use T4Gs to do this. And why are they all grayed out? What did I do wrong? Oh, ARM. There we go. And then, yeah, we'll just do a T4G small. Okay, we're not going to put a key pair on it. And I want to make sure this goes into a private subnet. Doesn't matter which one. And we'll use one of our existing security groups. And this is essentially our web server. So we're going to use the web server security group with it. That's fine. And then the other thing we need to do, we're going to use SSM to access this. So we're going to use the generic instance profile. And then if we scroll down, for now, all we're going to, oops, wrong one. We're going to do, okay, that's set by default now and then on Linux 2023, I think it is. So we'll leave that and let's just launch this guy. And we're going to do this, AWS EFS mount helper. And we're going to install this because it'll just make it easier. Where's the install section? Yeah, that'll do. So let's go back over here. We'll connect. Let me just see if can I zoom this window? I cannot. So let's do it this way. Okay, so we'll just do this. Get that installed. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say sudo make dir. That'll be our mount point for our EFS file system. And then from here, we can actually just get the mount command right from here. And this is what we'll use, okay, with a slight change. So we'll do this, and then we'll just say /www. Oh, what did I do wrong there? Oh, look what I did. I made the mount point. And okay, that's not going to be good. rm www. Oh. Okay, let's do this. That's better. Access denied by server. Oh, this is when we created our file system, we did not create a file system mount, not a file system mount policy, sorry, a file system in EFS policy doc. So I think what we're having here is the policy doc is denying us the ability to connect to the machine. So let's just test that theory before we get too far into this. Let's zoom this out. Actually, let's leave it like that. So see here, the file system policy, root client mount. Let's edit this. Prevent root. Well, so what this is saying is users with permission in this account can run a mount command on this. You know, I'm going to try something else. We're going to go like this for now. We're just going to delete this policy, and we're going to run that command again and see what it does. There we go. So yeah, resource policies, like what we were just looking at, aren't required by default, right? They're optional. So we'll come back to that policy later. I'll make a note of it, and we'll come back and have a look at it and maybe get something, this idea of layers of security in here. We'll maybe tighten that up. But for today, I just want to see this work. So we'll remove the file system policy for now, and we'll figure out maybe on the next stream how to do that. So now if I go www, there we go, okay? And we'll just do this, touch. Actually, let's do it like this, vi primary fs test dot text. Okay. 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 So we've got some other sort of permission issue here. I don't think this will work. Okay, it did. I don't know if it'll let us write to this or not. Okay, that did the trick. So there we go. So now we have that file. If we go back here and jump to Oregon, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to set up a simple test machine over here so we can see that we can mount the file system on the other side. Okay. Call it exactly the same. Let me zoom in again. Excuse me. Leave that. Go ARM. We'll make it a small machine. We'll make it exactly the same as what we did on the other side. Put that in one of the private subnets. We'll use the same security group on this side. That stays the same. And then under here, there. Where was it? Oh yeah, we didn't have to change anything there. We're good. So now we can say launch. And we'll just give this a minute or two to come to life, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to install the EFS utilities, and then we'll mount the file system and see if the file's there. Now this is, if I recall, one-way replication. So right now we're going from the primary file system to the secondary, meaning that if we changed anything here, it's not going to go back in the other direction. So let's go connect. And we'll zoom this in again to make it easier to read. Okay, so I already forget the install command. We had it here. This one. This guy. And that's our file. This is the guy we want to work on. Okay, and then what we need to do is get Oregon, and we need just the mount command for the file system on this side. All right, so we should have it here, I think. Didn't we deploy it already? Oh, look at that. Ooh. Why do I have two? Okay, hang on a second. CloudFormation. What's the date on those things? So you can see, let's go back to EFS for a second. both created today. When we create the replication, does it create another file system for us? Yeah, look at that. To write to this file system, you must delete your replication. So this is the file system we created. I'm a bit confused here on what we should be actually mounting, because didn't we give it this info in the... I'm gonna use this file system as our mount target and see what we see in here. Okay, so we can do this. We're probably gonna get the same error because it probably has that same policy on, but let's try it. Yeah, it's taken too long. So if we go back, oh, failed to, So here's our security group. Let's just check this security group. I don't see why our security group would be a problem. Yeah, I'm in Oregon, so I'm in the right place. There it is. Inbound, we're allowing NFS from the web server security group, which is what we put, unless I had a typo here. We just check this. This file, or this EC2 instance is in that secondary one. Failed due to timeout. Okay, well, let's go back over here. What are we mounting here? 996. So we're going to say file system. We're going to delete the policy. And then this is getting confusing. Let's close this one down. We don't need that. Okay, just for the sake of argument, let's go and find this file system. This is the one that says in here, right? The file system is being replicated to write to the file system. Can we attach to this one? And we'll just change this to /www. Failed to resolve. Check the file system ID. Okay, see here, no mount targets available. Maybe this isn't going to work the way that I had thought. So let's see if we can figure out why we can't mount this file system. And it's just giving us the timeout, right? If I do it again. This is just timing out. Yeah, it's definitely not working. Well, let's go back. You know what we could do? Let's go over here. We're going to go VPC. Actually, we can go to CloudWatch. right? And we'll go logs. We'll go to log groups, and we're going to run log insights. And we'll just go like this. We'll just create a simple filter. So we'll say filter destination port equals 2049, which is the port for NFS. Okay, there we go. Rejected. Okay, see this rejected traffic? That usually means, it's interesting that it's rejected and accepted. I wonder why it's switching back and forth. Usually, this is why flow logs are so important. Excuse me. Flow logs are really important because they're a great troubleshooting tool. It's interesting that it's going between reject and accept, because if you see rejected traffic in here, it means one of two things. Actually means a couple things. So first off, we know our routes are okay. So we have a route to this IP, which we'll check in a second. And then since we see accepted or rejected traffic, that validates the routes are okay. And then what we've got, excuse me, if you see rejected traffic, then that means either a network access control list or a security group is blocking that traffic. I don't know why we're seeing it kind of go between both. Okay. This 2049, which is the port that we're after. So what we can do is let's look this up, this IP, and what we'll do, go over here, we'll go EFS, or no, sorry, EC2. We will go to network interfaces, and we're going to search for that IP. What is this? So that's the mount target for 2996, which is this file system. Okay. And what was that? Was that rejected or it was accepted? And let's just check this. This should be, I'm assuming this is going to be the IP address of our EC2 instance. I don't know what else it would be. So if we go over, where was it? Here. And let's just get rid of, I think this one. This should be our EC2 instance. I don't know why it's, okay, hold on. There we go. Yeah, so that's our security group, which should tie back to, I think in here, there's our instance ID. And if we go to that instance ID, there's our AMI builder. So what is the problem here? Why is, so let's do this. AWS EFS failed due to timeout. Our inbound rules. Okay, so let's check. Let's just check this again. So we're going to go back. We're going to say network. Here's our security group. All right. Let's go back over here. Security group. Search for that. Inbound 2049 from the secondary. What does this end in? And oh, 8Q7. Hang on. I think we've got a mistake here. So if we go, sorry, if we go security groups, right? What was that? 8Q7? Okay, no, that's right. Did I just maybe put the instance in the wrong security group? Oh, look what I did. I put it in the wrong security group. Okay. It's always the easiest thing. So we're going to remove this. We're going to go here and we're going to go web security group, add, and save. All right, so here's a little tip. If you get timeouts, check your routes first, but most likely it's going to be a security group or a network ACL. And as I said already, the easiest way to check, is it a route, that I know of is if you have VPC flow logs on and you know the source or destination IP or the destination port, you can do a really quick filter in the flow log insights tool. And if you see no traffic there, you know it's a routing issue. But in our case, you saw traffic there and we were getting, I still don't get the accepted and rejected piece, but because we saw the traffic there, we knew the route table was good. So then you could start looking at either your network ACLs or a security group, or maybe a combination of both, depending on what you're doing. So there's a little troubleshooting tip. I use that all the time. All right, so let's try it again. If we go back over here now, magic, there we go. So now if we do this, there are no files here. I'm a little confused about this. Let's do this. Maybe we can't use EFS replication like I thought you could. Let's just have a look at this documentation. So you can use EFS replication to create a replica of your file system in the AWS region of your preference, which we've done, right? When you enable replication on an EFS file system, EFS automatically and transparently replicates the data and metadata on the source file system to a new destination file system. To manage the process of creating those files, blah, 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 it uses a replication config, which we did, right? EFS automatically keeps the source and destination files synchronized. EFS replication is continual and designed to provide a recovery point objective and recovery time objective of minutes. These features should assist you in meeting your compliance, blah, 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 blah. So this is basically what we've done, right? We've got our source EFS file system, our EFS multi-AZ deployment, replicating. Now they're showing bidirectional replication. We should look at that. To a multi-AZ deployment of EFS in our secondary region, which we have. Okay, here we're going from a multi-AZ deployment to a single AZ deployment. Here we're replicating the different types of file systems, one zone and standard, okay? All right, what's in our replication config? Our destination region, the region in which to create the destination file system. EFS replication is available in all AWS regions in which EFS is available. Availability and durability, AZ, encryption, automatic backups. It's interesting because in here, when we created oh, look at here. Amazon EFS does not create any mount targets when it creates the destination file system. To mount a destination file system, you must create one or more mount targets. Because a destination file system is read-only, while it's a member of a replication config, any write operations will fail. However, you can use the destination file system for read-only access, including testing and development. I don't know if this is maybe the best way to do what we're trying to do. And then to fail over, you must delete the replication configuration because it's read-only, right? So you can get rid of the replication config, and then after it's deleted, the destination file system becomes writable and you can start using it. You know, I'm a little confused about this then. Oh, look, RTFM moment. The ID of the destination file system. I made this way more complicated than I needed to because it's not required. Also not required. And we included these pieces of information, which is okay actually, because it was interesting in the fact that it allowed us to figure out some interesting CodeWhisperer CLI using that. But if the ID of the destination file system, if we included this, why did it create a new one? And even then, just based on what we're seeing here is when it creates that other file system, it's mounted in read-only, and you can't, or it's created as a read-only file system, and you can't mount it. So therefore, our idea, if we flip back to this isn't going to work, right? Because our EC2 instances here cannot mount that file system, right? Because this is mounted as a read-only file system, has no mount points. So the only way, based on the documentation, the only way that these EC2 instances can mount this EFS file system is if we delete the primary file system, then this becomes read-write, and these guys have a mount target for it. This isn't going to work the way that we thought. We might have to go back to the drawing board on this one. Or I'm missing something here. Yeah, so this is a walkthrough of just setting up an Amazon web server using an EFS file system, but it's not a multi-AZ, or sorry, a multi-region deployment. Yeah, we're going to have to do some more reading on this. I don't think it's going to work the way that we had hoped it would work. Yeah, it's definitely, I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board on this one, folks. So what have we been doing here? How long have we been? Yeah, well, we're almost to our 2-hour limit anyways. I think we'll call it here. I'll do some more research, figure out a path forward on this one, and next week we'll come back and see if we can figure out a way to actually replicate this data from EFS to something else in our other region Maybe we have to look at a different service, something like data sync or something like that. So anyways, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be back on Tuesday night, hopefully to maybe not finish this, but figure out this little roadblock. And as always, it's been fun. We got to see some interesting CodeWhisperer CLI stuff. We'll see you next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Bye for now.